Now, it's crazy to think I just got done talking about early spring fishing, ice out bass fishing, and we're already starting to talk about shallow water bass fishing. Fish are already starting to push up into the pre-spawn, into those really shallow, flat bays. And these fish, believe it or not, are even looking at spawning already. Our water temps up here in Michigan change so quickly. You basically get ice out, you get an early spring for a very short period of time, and then these fish get up onto those flats. The water temps push into the upper 40s, low 50-degree range, and these fish are looking to get up on that shallow flat and feed. Now, in today's video, I'm going to break down my top 3 keys to catching those shallow water fish to help you guys go out and have more success chasing fish in shallow water. Now, if you guys don't know who I am, my name is Benjamin Nowak, and this channel is dedicated to teaching you bass fishing tips, taking you on trips, and teaching you about techniques like fishing for bass in shallow water. So if you guys enjoy that style of content, please consider subscribing to the channel and growing this community. Also, share this video with your friend, and I'd love to know what are some of your key tips that help you have success when chasing shallow water fish. Before we dive into the video, one really big announcement. I'm going to start putting out 2 videos a week. Video dates are going to change to Sundays and Wednesdays, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Sundays are going to be like our recap from the week that we just had. Wednesdays are going to be our baits, our techniques, our topics that are going to help us get ready for the fishing weekend ahead. So Sundays, Wednesdays, upload 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And I would love to know what kind of content you guys want to see me talk about. More largemouth stuff, more fishing videos. What kind of videos do you guys want to see that will help you be better anglers? So stay tuned for those videos. It's going to be pumping out videos Sundays and Wednesday nights. I would love to know what kind of content you guys would love to see. So let me know down there in the comment section down below. But without further ado, let's dive into this thing. Now, like I said, it's pretty crazy to think that our water temps went from those ice out temps already up into the low 50s, upper 50-degree ranges in some places, especially in our inland lakes down in the lower portion of the state. I mean, it's 80 degrees today. I'm in a t-shirt. These fish are feeling the same things that I'm feeling. It's getting warm. It's getting hot. We're getting frisky. We want to move around. We want to be active. We want to be outside. And these fish are starting to push onto the shallow flats. So in today's video, I'm going to really break down my top 3 keys to help me have success fishing for bass in shallow water, both largemouth and smallmouth. Now, before we dive into my top 3 keys to fishing shallow water, there's really a couple different triggers that are going to push these fish up into those shallow water zones. So let's quickly break those down. And really, there are 2 keys. Number 1, and the earliest trigger to push these fish into shallow water, is a warming trend with warm nights. Now, why does that warm night matter to me? In my opinion, that warm night helps these fish push up onto that shallow flat, especially if you have a front pushing in. They'll get up on that shallow flat. They'll be feeding in that shallow water. That warm night is really critical in warming those water temperatures into the upper 40s, mid to low, or even upper 50-degree range. These fish are going to be up on those shallow flats in these shallow water zones looking to feed. So number 1 trigger for me is going to be those warm nights leading into a warming trend, maybe with some sort of prefrontal system coming through. It's going to have those fish up on those shallow flats feeding aggressively. Number 2 is a much more obvious reason that these fish are going to be shallow, and that is going to be late pre-spawn, getting ready to spawn. They're going to be up there looking to bed. You're looking for those water temps in the low to mid upper 50-degree range. These fish are going to be up on those shallow flats. Shallow could be relative. It could be 12 foot if you're fishing the Great Lakes. It could be inches if you're fishing largemouth and dirty bodies of water. But up on those shallow flats, looking for places to spawn, feeding up, and really getting up there shallow to do the dirty. So those really are the 2 keys for me. The premier scenario that's going to drive them shallow first are those warm nights with a prefrontal system pushing in. Those are the days that you're going to first get up on those shallow flats and find these fish. And number 2 are going to be those pre-spawners or spawners when these fish are pushing up into those shallow water zones in the mid to upper 50-degree range. Now, the first key, and in my opinion, the most important key when you're fishing in shallow water, is going to be getting distance, creating separation between you and a bait. That's going to help you trigger more of those fish to bite. In my opinion, whether you're smallmouth fishing or largemouth fishing, the more distance you can put between yourself, that bait, and those fish, the more fish you're going to be able to catch out of that pod, out of that school, or out of those roamers that are roaming in the shallow flats. If those fish don't know you're there because you put so much distance between you and the bait, that's going to improve your odds of catching more fish. Now, on this recent trip where I caught all these largemouth, the biggest key was finding these fish in that 3 to 6 foot range. I was taking that jerkbait and I was casting it as far as I can. And I talk about this a lot, but I fish a little bit longer jerkbait rod. I am a short dude. I'm 5'6", 5'7" on a really, really good day. I'm fishing a 7-foot jerkbait rod, the TFO Option Bass 7-foot medium. I like to be able to launch that bait, and that little bit longer rod helps me get a little bit extra distance on my jerkbait. I'm also fishing jerkbaits that cast really far. When I start to look at jerkbaits that I like, I'm fishing your Vision 110s, your Berkeley Stunnas, your Booyah Flashpoint, which I fished in that video. These baits with those really good weight transfer systems that allow me to cast that bait long distances. Even for largemouth bass, it's critical that you create separation and distance between you and that bait. It's going to help you get more fish to bite. So I was making really long casts with that bait over this really shallow flat, and I was getting these fish to bite, within the first 10 seconds of my cast. That's by creating distance, getting separation between me and that bait, and getting those fish to bite that lure on those sand spots. So creating separation, getting distance between you and your bait, throwing at fish further away is going to help you catch more of those fish. That's going to really lead us into point 2. And point 2 for me is going to be all about stealth, all about really minimizing your presence in the area. You want those fish to never feel you until you set the hook into them. You don't want those fish to know you exist. So what that means is turning your trolling motor down, using slower trolling motor speeds. If you have power poling down in an area to allow you to be totally silent when you're in those shallow water zones, and really kind of building on that stealth, using the wind in your favor, using that wind at your back to push you along these flats so you don't have to use that trolling motor. So you're not constantly tacking with that trolling motor, creating trolling motor noises, and in some cases even turning off your forward-facing sonar. A couple of years ago, Caleb Bell came up and we were fishing on a lake up in northern Michigan, a super, super pressure body of water. There were probably 10 to 15 boats every single day that we were on the lake. And I would venture to say we probably had some of the best days of anyone that was fishing on those days on the water. The reason for that was the stealth. We turned off our graphs. We turned the trolling motor down to 1 or 2. We used that wind at our back to push us along these flats. And we were targeting giant smallmouth in like 3 to 6 foot of water, throwing little marabou jigs. With that wind at our back, we create separation with the bait, and we're allowing that wind to really push us across these areas, basically allowing us to be silent around these fish. The more stealth you can use, the longer casts you can make, the lighter line you can use, the less presence you have is going to help you trigger more fish in shallow water areas. I don't care if it's dirty or clean water, pressured fish or non-pressured fish, the more stealth you can use are going to result in more fish. When I think about stealth, one thing that comes to mind a lot is these big swim bait fishermen. I remember Oliver Nye talking about the 13-pounder he caught. He was throwing Huddleston, fishing it uphill, but his big key was that he would basically tie himself off to the bank, and he would never touch his trolling motor. Like, these big swim bait guys talk about stealth so much and how important casting angles are and stealth and being really, silent in the boat. Using stealth is a major, major factor, especially when you're targeting shallow water fish and pressured fish in those shallow water zones. So creating separation with the bait, using stealth in your favor, and then really leading me into my third point, which is paying attention to minute details that are holding fish and understanding that where you catch one fish, there are going to be many. So I guess this is point 3 and 4, or really all grouped into one. Pay attention to the very minute details. Where did you catch that fish? Was it on a sand spot? Was it in the grass patch? Was it on maybe a little bit different color bottom? Paying attention to these minute details will help you understand what you're looking for when you're targeting these fish in shallow water, especially if you can't visually see the bass swimming with your eyes. The other big key here is where you catch one. Typically, that's a pattern where you can catch many. It doesn't necessarily mean all the fish are going to be in one zone or in one area, but if you're catching them off of big boulders, giant smallmouth off of big boulders, maybe these fish are relating to those larger boulder rocks. Maybe they're relating to the dark spots. Maybe they're relating to the wood with the grass growing around it. I was up fishing on Hubbard last year, fishing that team series, and I was catching these fish out of 4 to 8 foot of water, and my biggest key was looking for those dark spots on the bottom. And a lot of times where those dark spots were, there was a log that had fallen on the bottom, the grass had grown up around it, and basically created an ecosystem for these bass to hang out while they were pre-spawning up in those shallow water zones. So paying attention to those minute details can be very, very important. And understanding what that minute detail is will unlock those shallow water fish for you. So those really are my 3 keys when I'm targeting fish in shallow water. Number 1, creating separation and distance between you and your bait. Really, really key in getting these fish to trigger and bite. Number 2, using stealth in your favor. Turning that trolling motor down, using the wind at your back, maybe even turning off your graphs. I know you forward-facing sonar guys might not want to turn that thing off, but turn off those graphs. You're in shallow water. Use your eyes and pay attention to what you're fishing. That might lead to more fish. And finally, paying attention to the minute details where those fish are hanging out can make a difference in catching one fish and catching hundreds of fish. So really go out there with these 3 things in mind: creating separation, using stealth, paying attention to the details to locate what these fish are doing. It's going to help you have some of the most incredible days on the water. But if you guys want to learn more bass fishing tips, click this video right here. Hit that button right there if you guys aren't already subscribed to the channel, and help me grow this community into something bigger and better. Also, go down there, give it a thumbs up if you guys enjoyed this video. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. Take care, tight lines. God bless. Pursue your passion.